Hey, Trojan family, what's going on? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. Happy Monday evening, Tuesday morning, bright and early, depending whenever you are tuning in. Thank you, as always, for making this a part of your day. If you have not already, I know starting the show off with this, but hit that like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 8K. I've said this before Christmas. I asked, hey, can we get to 7K before Christmas? And you guys, amazingly, we blew past that number. We're at almost 7,800 now. So we need just a little over 200 more to get to 8K. Let's keep this thing rolling. Would love to eventually get this thing to, 50K and beyond. I know the Trojan family is deep. I know it's one of the biggest fan bases in college football. So we can keep this thing going to the moon. And it takes all of you, but we appreciate you so much for all that you do. Want to jump on here quick. I saw the odds. I know we're getting way ahead, looking way ahead, but for a little late night conversation, the national championship odds for 2026 have been released. DraftKings Sportsbook released their latest odds. And I thought it was interesting because they have USC pretty high in these odds. And I always say, if you listen to the show often and you listen maybe before the season when I was talking a lot about the AP poll and what a sham I think it is and what a joke I think it is, I actually put a lot of weight in. We still say Vegas. These odds books now are kind of in different locations now. It's not just like Caesars Sportsbook in Vegas, but just to make it a overarching thing, I trust Vegas a lot more than I do like the AP poll, than I do. There's a lot of great writers and journalists that really pay attention and put their actually a lot of knowledge into those rankings. And there's a lot that don't give two S's about it and just kind of fill in or follow suit from what other people do. Vegas cares because it's a money game. And so they're putting a lot of stock into their, they don't do rankings necessarily, but into who they have favored and what their odds are week in and week out. So I always put a lot of stock into kind of their decision making. So USC in the 2026-27 national title odds on DraftKings Sportsbook, they have come in at 12th. So I'll just go through, I'll put this up on the screen here. I'll go through the top 12 and then we can chat about it quickly. So they have Ohio State at 1 at plus 600, Indiana at 2 plus 700, Texas at 3 plus 750, Georgia at 4 plus 800, Oregon and Notre Dame tied for 5th at plus 1,000, LSU plus 1,200, Alabama at 8th plus 1,400, Texas Tech at 9th plus 1,500, Texas A&M at 10th plus 1,600, Miami, who is in the national championship that's going to be played here in a couple days, but they're losing a lot of pieces, including their quarterback, plus 2,000, and USC coming in at 12th at plus 3,500. Now, just to give you a little context, last year, going into this season, USC was around 22nd in odds at plus 12,000. So certainly the odds makers feel much more confident in USC this year than it did last year. Now, part of that, obviously, from 24 into 25, they finished the year 6-6, 7-6 with the bowl win. You had essentially a new starting quarterback with Jaden Mayava. I know he took over the last couple games. But there was maybe perhaps more unknown going into this season. And so, again, I know 9-3, 9-4 is not acceptable at USC, but just for all those that are really upset, they actually outdid their odds in a sense, considering they, were in the 22nd best odds and they finished top 16 total in the country in terms of ranking. But this year, obviously a lot more belief in USC sitting 12th. And, part of that is with the returning players. Part of that is the recruiting class. But they also, Vegas, they're taking into account the schedule. And USC has an absolutely brutal schedule. Maybe you could argue the hardest schedule in college football, considering they're at Indiana, they play Ohio State, they play Oregon, at Penn State. It's just a brutal schedule, and they still have them 12th overall. So this is obviously a huge year. We've talked about it a ton for Lincoln Riley and company. We still don't know the defensive coordinator. That has not been either hired or divulged yet, which I'll have another video out tomorrow with a couple new names that have come out. So Tuesday, look out for that as we drop some more defensive coordinator knowledge. But even with all of that encompassing, you still have USC in the top 12 of title odds. So take that for what you want. It doesn't really mean anything, right? It means no more than a preseason ranking would mean. But it just shows you that the odds makers have some belief in what Lincoln Riley, Chad Bowden are building, what they're putting back on the field going into next season. And even with all the unknowns at some positions, even with the brutal schedule that it is, they believe USC has a real shot to not just be a playoff team, because this is not just odds to make the playoff, but odds to win the national title. So I just thought that was interesting. Considering how much they jumped from last year to this year. Still all the question marks. And the fact that they were, able to finish in that high regards as of now, as of January 12th. It doesn't mean anything. I thought when you look at the rest of the rankings, really most of them make kind of sense. The usual players there. I thought LSU at 7 was interesting, plus 1,200 to me. That feels a little high, obviously, but they're putting a lot of stock in Lane Kiffin and a lot of stock in how much money they're putting into the program right off the bat to turn things around quickly. They did just sign Sam Leavitt, the number 1 quarterback in the portal. That will certainly help. But it's an influx season. Now we'll see if they can have like a Lincoln Riley year 1 type of season when you get the right quarterback in and maybe you get a nice flash right off the bat. Maybe they'll be able to do that. But I think, we haven't seen Lane Kiffin. I know he's a good coach. I'm not saying anything against him. But even at Ole Miss, it took him 5 years to build that. Now he's obviously having a much different infrastructure and support system at LSU, but we'll see how quickly that happens. So I thought 7 feels a little high. Alabama at 8. I don't know what Alabama's going to, I don't think they're going to be a powerhouse anymore. I think, and that's nothing against Kalen DeBoer. He unfortunately is just coming after Nick Saban, but Nick Saban retired for a reason. He can say all he wants, it was just his time, and I think he said, with the portal, it was development was different, which, that's 100% true. But he, I think, also was very keen to the idea that, hey, whether he was playing naive or not, he knew the rest of college football now was doing what Alabama had been doing and the SEC had been doing probably for years. And so, Kalen DeBoer, you can think whatever you want about him. I think he's a good coach. He just unfortunately took over a program from the greatest to ever do it in an era that school specifically probably isn't even a top 8 program in terms of just NIL and backing and capability and infrastructure and stuff like that. So they're going off history and Saban basically at this point. So I think 8, after seeing their kind of iffy season, sneaking into the playoff, then just getting blown out by, no surprise, Indiana blew out Oregon. So not much surprise there. Oregon, I think, depends a lot on if Dante Moore comes back. They have them at 5th. We'll see if those odds change if he ends up declaring for the draft, because then they'll be rolling with Dylan Raiola off an ACL injury, unless they go get another quarterback. So that might drop a little bit. And then, as I just alluded to, Miami right above USC at 11. That's clearly because they're losing Beck, losing a lot of key players to the NFL draft, most likely. But, I'd think, they should get a little bit more credit than that for being in the title as we speak. But yeah, so there you have it. So let me know your thoughts. USC coming in at 12 plus 3,500. If you bet $100 on that, you win 3,500. That's how that works if they were to win the title. So, kind of a fun bet there if you want to do it. If you go over to DraftKings or any of those places. But let me know your thoughts. Comment below and just, your level of excitement on this team. And hey, Vegas is clearly a little bit excited. So how are you guys feeling? We talked a lot of recruiting, a lot of different stuff. Let's get this DC search continued. So like I said, tomorrow I'll be dropping some, I don't want to call it intel. It's out there. Other people have reported on it. But some more DC names have come up that USC has spoken with. And so potentially guys that could ultimately end up getting the job. So we'll talk on that tomorrow. So be on the lookout. Hit that like and subscribe so you get notified. Become a member of the channel. You get merchandise discounts at LAFB for being a member, plus some other priorities. Plus, we are going to start doing some events that you will get priorities at as well. Appreciate you, family. As always, fight on. Hey, Trojan family, thank you so much for hanging out and watching the USC LAFB show. Before you go, let me tell you quickly about our friends over at Sleeper. Go right now, download the Sleeper app. It's the #1 sports app, not just for season-long fantasy, but they've got live pickers, they've got live stat updates, they've got a chat you can chat with other users, plus the daily pick'em, which is a blast, or daily fantasy, whatever you want to call it. You go and pick 2 to 8 players across any sports. If you're talking USC, go choose Jade Mayav in his next matchup. Pick more or less passing yards, more or less touchdowns. You stack those, and you can win real money. When you go to make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code USCLAFB. You're going to get a match deposit up to $100. Put in $100, you get $100 free to play with from Sleeper. Put in $10, they'll match you that $10. So now you're sitting at $20 to play with. But also right now, for any new users, no deposit required. You get $20 free entry. You can stack both. You can get the $20 for free. Go make a deposit. Use USC LAFB. And now you've got a bunch of free money to play with right there on the Sleeper app. Check it out, Trojan family. And when you do, tell them the guys at the USC LAFB sent you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.